Hello, everybody. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm plugging along. I'm looking forward to an exciting match tonight.
Yeah, we've got two really good players going up. Weffjebster being the 4 seed going into this tournament. This is his first match of the tournament since he got that first round bye.
I've certainly seen Wef putting in quite a bit of practice. I am not as familiar with James KT, however. Are you familiar?
I am not super familiar, but been watching previous races. Um, I mean, everyone here knows what they're doing. So, looks like we're going to be having a really good match on our hands.
All right, it looks like the gate has been dropped. We are counting down. Our runner should be getting going in just a moment here. A little bit of a restream delay. I always forget about that on Speedgaming.
They will be underway shortly.
Thank you for the info on that, Lily Spikes. It's very appreciated. I exist on the archipelago side of the Timespinner world, so that I don't necessarily see all of the speedrunning stuff and whatnot. So I'm familiar with the game, just not as much with the people.
Yes, I also come from the archipelago side, and they are underway. Let's see what orbs we start with. Blade minus.
Ew. Close range, bad damage, the best. The only thing it's really got going for it is that upper arc, which can help. And Aura Serpent minus, which will do basically 0 damage. Yeah.
These runners are super excited to be starting with Blade minus and Aura Serpent minus.
All right, while we get through our opening cutscenes and shortly fallen down into a waterfall. We get to skip the cutscene entirely. Both runners already into the refugee camp. So real quick, we have our Unchained keys allowing us to find our warped beacons that will allow us to go to modern and beyond time to the pyramid. Gear 1 right out the gate, as well as a light wall plus and a shadow seal. All right, well the seed solved.
We've solved the problem. We have infinite vertical. We've got damage. That's it.
I mean, both of these runners are going to know everything they want to do with that.
James actually.
Spicy
James going
divergence.
to the right. As we see Wef headed over to Lake Serene, using that light wall plus that they found.
I definitely respect the divergence here, especially if there was a map check to validate whether the flooded areas are going to be messing with us on the way over.
I'm sure we'll get that map check soon, but it seems like Wef was just going over there to have easier access back over with that Unchained key flag that we have.
I could respect that. It's nice to have the warp points. I am known for taking warp points that sometimes aren't exactly speedrun tech. So we'll see if there are any additional interesting finds along the way. James headed down to Bat Ledge. I believe this flag set has lore checks on, right?
Yes, it has all of the checks on.
Excellent.
including Geyer and our Cantoran, which we will encounter later. Ooh, and Willie in the chat brings up a good point. Weff has guaranteed that he's both used a warp point and has tagged that one towards Lake Serene. So when he reaches the warp shards in towers, he already has that ability to use warp shards to warp around. I've made that mistake before. It really doesn't feel good.
That moment when you are in Royal Towers, you've completed the loop, and you're just like, oh, it's time to get out of here. Well, I guess I'm walking.
Yep.
One of the things that I think is important for our runners to find in the early game here are just a few aura restoration items. So that filigree tea that was just found on James' screen, very helpful, just to make sure that we can hit the heights with our light walls.
Yes, as we see Weff circling back to that ledge after being a little bit fancy with his light wall placements. Started too far away and is rewarded with aura.
Now it's time to get bullied by barrels or hay bales. I'm never sure.
They look like barrels. I'm gonna say they're barrels.
To me, it's the Donkey Kong screen, right? Eternal Coat from our fabulous check there.
That is our best piece of armor there. For both damage. Well, I think it's just for damage. I think there might be one that's better for defense, but
They're logs? Oh, geez.
Logs?
Completely reasonable answer. And, from the person saying it, I have to believe.
Yeah, I'm inclined to believe the game devs that they're logs. Doesn't make them look any less like barrels.
That's a gear, too. Finding the gears early like this is super nice because they're otherwise logicless in this flag set. And it's just great to get them out of the way.
Yes. I suppose that's a...
Oh, that was a water mask. And
yeah, James got bullied out of it, I think due to aura, and did not end up picking up that water mask.
Therefore, Weff's also going to get these two checks and terrifyingly sit at 34 hit points going into the log roll room. So, yes, heck, there's a modern warp beacon, however. That's going to be a very obvious check for when Weff gets there. Security keycard A underwater.
James stuck between the two hammer giantesses.
That's never a good feeling.
No. Especially with the complete lack of damage that they started with. Lightwall Plus is a great offensive tool for bosses, not necessarily as great for enemies.
I think it's okay for the giantesses. Now, one thing going for James here is this is not a flooded castle. This castle basement being flooded is extremely detrimental when you've just walked past a water mask.
Yes, it is. As we see Weff picking up that Eternal Coat that we saw James pick up earlier from... I'm not sure what that chest is called. Bombardier Part 2.
I know it's supposed to be like a time stop the engineer kind of thing. I also don't know what it's supposed to be called.
Saw a Star Vacuum pickup from James there in the castle basement. That's a good feeling for if you had a good damage orb, since it allows you to use a third one, which is just inherently more damage.
I think both of these runners are going to go for the Shadow Seal strats.
Yeah. I forgot that. I already forgot that we had that. That start was so insane that I completely blacked out on the most important part. So much damage out of that Shadow Seal. And neither of our runners letting us see where that modern warp beacon takes us.
I like how Weff is so used to walking out of that room in disappointment that he almost walked out on the warp beacon.
It's something you get in the habit of, and then all of a sudden there's something good and you have to turn around again. That's fire up there. We'll be picking that up, which means that when we go towards Lake Serene, we will be able to burn those vines.
Always feels good when you're able to just do that in one swoop. Very important cosmetic check underneath the twins.
Infernal Flames minus. Will we ever find proper damage this seed, or will we exclusively be using Lightwall Plus?
I mean, I'm okay with Lightwall Plus as long as the enemy's big-ish. So it's not that bad. Now, the real question, do we get anything that's going to be neutral or weak to the radiant damage from that light wall? The answer, yes.
Nope. Yes, we do. As we find Varney, everyone's favorite meatball. Well, I suppose Vision's Infernos is probably everyone's favorite meatball, but
I will say that Varney is my least favorite boss in the game, particularly when scaled up due to rando placement. So
yeah, those missiles that he fires are quite the pain to deal with. Unfortunately, nothing important at the twins location, but one step closer to the laser barrier being down. Not that we necessarily need to.
So Weff opting to go to Metropolis, which is our warp point from the Unchained Key. Praise Lightwall. Alright, so James has completed the fight against Varney. We're out of there. That is one of our theoretically required bosses. And I say theoretically because Labless is a thing in this flag set. That's a regular gun orb. As a fan of the gun orb.
As a fan of the gun orb, yes, but I don't feel like either of these runners will be
That's Gear 3.
too pressured to be swapping to that. Oh,
That was
James
Gear
having
3.
Yes, Gear 3. The librarian holding on to the third gear. This could be a really quick seed. They are 2 Timespinner gear pieces and access to the pyramid away.
That's a spell worth casting as well. Plasma Plus can do quite a bit of damage. It would be very interesting to see a seed. Oh, Chaos Stoles for sale? Heck yeah.
Chaos Stoles and Warp Shards. Now that's that's a quality shop right there. Warp Shards are of course guaranteed, but those Chaos Stoles really help. And now we see James making their way into the library as well. We'll be picking up those Chaos Stoles as well as Warp Shards. And the third gear. There was a lot of cool stuff here.
Hey, it's a Meteor Sparrow trap.
Yeah, new flag this year, Trapped Chest. Empire Crown, that's our most damage for headgear.
Vanilla Wind Orb is an orb that exists, technically.
You know, I said that we weren't going to see anybody equip those, that we might not see the people, our runners, equip that gun orb, but here we see James with gun orb and the Star of Lachium, so that's 3 guns.
I think with orb swap, the gun orb does just fine without the star, but there's no reason not to put the star on because you can't use a shadow seal. Bluebird of Happiness over in the boots location. Farewell, Bluebird of Happiness.
One of the Weff jumping over the arm cannon. That shows you his opinion on it.
Yeah. Pendulum can be very useful if you're able to damage boost through the caves. That's a good
Yes,
find on
Pendulum,
those
of course. Pendulum, of course, being the equipable item that allows you to not be poisoned. Very useful when you enter the areas with all of the enemies that decide that they want to poison you. Because poison in this game is kind of brutal. Taking 25% of your health over a pretty decent chunk of time.
One thing that I learned recently, and this is one of those things that, you know, when you have the trap boxes on, I think it's a little bit more likely. If you have poison on you and then you get chaos applied to you, it takes the poison off.
Yes, you can only have one status at a time, so you know, you got that going for you. If you're poisoned, you can, you know, walk into that trap you just saw on the ground and hope for chaos. Of course, it could also be bees. So,
The
you know, take your
bees!
pick. Take your pick, or just equip a pendulum like the rest of us.
Bombardment Plus.
There we go. We found the
Praise.
damage.
Praise. We have every bit of damage we could possibly want. Now I really want to see a very fast spindle and wheel and mysterious warp beacon, I think it's called.
Yes, Mysterious Warp Beacon is the one that puts you into the pyramid. And James, finally making it back to that water mask, will be excited that he went back for that.
Excited is one word for the situation.
Excited that he went back, not necessarily excited that he skipped it. Because that's a one-off check, even though you had it early. You did find a bunch of progression in your Sphere 1, so... I personally don't think I would have gone back this early, but...
It's hard to know what the right play is at the time. Caves of Banishment play. Interesting. Best defensive hat. But unfortunately the best...
Forgetting that he... Whipping it, forgetting that he had the best damage hat, and as we all know, damage output is more important than not taking damage, because you can always dodge the damage.
The best defense is the superior offense, as it were.
That's the library V card. That'll be 3 more checks, if we find that tablet.
Eventually. Alright, we are seeing some cave-ish plays.
Weff entering the Zerion caves, having a hard time with the severe amount of HP that all of these enemies have because of the lackluster damage that we have on our orbs. But with that pendulum making it a little bit safer.
Slightly. It would be a decent idea to actually switch over to that gun orb, but I think Weff is committed.
Yes, gun orb. That is Celestial Sash in the Siren. In the Caves of
Ooh.
Banishment, not Siren Caves.
Oh, that's a find.
That is the best vertical, allowing you to fly infinitely. So that is an advantage of being able to not have to have Light Wall equipped. Well, I suppose with Jewelry Box it's not that big of a deal, but not having to worry about your aura nearly as much, being able to use a lot more on the Bombardment Plus casts.
Yeah, and with the Celestial Sash, the movement is just so much faster. You know, you're not delaying to spellcast, you're not having to jump, grab, jump, as is the routine.
Yeah. With that sash in hand, James heading over to Lake Serene. Let's see what we can find over there while Wef continues in Zerion Caves. And that's Radiant Plus. That is a good bit of damage.
Now we've solved the sustained damage problem.
Now we're not relying on aura for damage.
Wef taking the quick reset to get back to the save point, save some of that vertical and horizontal movement to avoid those fairly unimpressive checks. And we got a Gensa
Fine.
fight.
Genza at Azure Queen.
This is a very short-lived Gensa. I think that was at Cantorin.
Oh, yeah, that was at Cantorin. I just saw a room in Lake Serene and forgot that Cantoran existed, despite having mentioned it earlier.
Oh, Meatball minus. Very sad.
Yep, not happy about that one.
Royal Rain
That
on
is a
James' side, which is helpful sometimes. You know, it's pink access, which is good. But
Colossal Hammer Plus. That is also a good bit of damage. Probably not going to be using it over a Bombardment, as they both deal blunt damage.
both of these runners are going to lean into the bombardment, I'm sure. It's as much fun as the big clunk is.
Unless you really need the range, you're going to be using Bombardment over Colossal Hammer. And with that Kobo pickup in the library, you are now able to get to the Ifrit fight at the end of the Gyre. Due to the Temporal Gyre being randomized, there are 2 warp points, one requiring Kobo to access in the library and one requiring Merchant Crow to access in the lab, which allows you to face off against the Ifrit and Ravenlord boss fights, respectively.
Neurotoxin Trap just taking it for good measure on the way in to fight Emperor Volterolus.
Volterolus being a relatively stationary boss, so Light Wall Plus, and of course those Radiant Orbs making quick work. So we see Wef entering into Lake Serene as well after finishing up the Zarian Caves.
That's a wheel.
That's a
One
wheel.
piece.
One piece, and we do have that mysterious warp beacon, I think. I missed that when I was looking at Weff.
Ooh.
At least I think I see that on his tracker. So James is all of one Timespinner spindle away from go mode here.
This could be an incredibly fast seed. And I know that these have been generally pretty swingy because of the nature of the Unchained Keys breaking up some of the required stuff. So
Yeah. Unchained Keys really breaks up a bunch of the walking you would have to do when you didn't have the Twin Pyramid Keys, since you do start with them. It allows for much faster traversal, incentivizes going to the shops earlier to get those warp shards. It is made for a really, really exciting tournament. And here we see James from the Gaia entry, warp point, going into the pyramid, praying that what has seemed to be very true for most of the races, that there has always been one important item in the pyramid remains true, and we'll find something. Really hoping for a spindle.
I mean, it's the only item that matters, right?
Yeah. The only items that matter right now are really that spindle or anything that would unlock more checks, but they already have so many left to do that we will likely just be seeing a bunch of nothing in here. Otherwise, this would be a crazy seed.
I mean, I'm going to vote for the crazy every time it's possible.
I would love to see something at Regret Chest. Spindle at Regret. Let's see it happen.
The perpetual danger is actually getting through and, you know, dealing with the various orb enemies. Wisdom, Zeal, Judgment, I think they're called. Living Dangerous.
Yeah, something like that.
With James KT.
And these enemies, of course, not being affected by time stop, so that's unfortunate. Not picking up the full heal. Doesn't need it. We're living dangerously.
We want to use that Shadow Seal to the best of our abilities.
We sure do.
And we also want to just be ready to hard reset back to that save point. Hello, Kane. Goodbye, Kane.
And it's just a sand file. Reset back to the bottom, where we will be continuing on.
I know that was kind of going
Wef's
downwards.
doing the Ifrit fight, where he finds keycard B.
I am way less worried about keycard B right up until I see keycard D, right? Like, B does very little on its own here.
Yeah, B, not great on its own, but trap on the pedestal. That's a tablet!
That's actually potentially big.
Yeah, that could be very big for Wef here.
Unless the spindle
Unless
is at the bottom
spindle
of the
at the
pyramid.
Sandman chest.
Wouldn't that just be the way?
This would be the seed of the tournament if that happened.
It is
No,
not.
just sand.
Hopes and dreams dashed.
Hopes and dreams dashed, but does have that warp point locked in.
And there's a merchant crow. That gives us an additional.
An additional fight once we get to lab. James finding that arm cannon, not being as rude as Weff, and actually picking it up.
It's okay to leave some things behind sometimes.
Like the neurotoxin trap that Weff has jumped over a few times now.
Yep. There's our magic meat machine.
Let's see what's behind all these fire checks that we've done.
Very little, because the seed has been absolutely cracked when it comes to gear.
Yeah. It really is just a spindle hunt at this point. Galaxy earrings.
Bling bling.
Does have the cool effect of increasing your orb EXP. Unfortunately, not nearly enough to warrant equipping them.
That's why you have to set it super high in your YAML. I mean, that's an archipelago thing, but all the same.
Yes, you gotta turn on that extra XP is super high. Didn't mention it, but Weff's now in Maw Caves after doing Zarian already.
So, Maw Caves is... it's a lot of checks when you get to the bonus room, or... is it? I can't remember.
Jackpot room?
That's the one.
Yeah. Maw Caves features 4 more checks than Zarian Caves, as well as having one of the required, well, one of the maybe required laser bosses, the Maw. So usually not a bad idea to go down here and clear it out, since that jackpot room holds 4 whole items and could have exactly what you need at any given moment. A bit rough with only light wall, as Weff has not done any of the underwater checks, or the Cave of Banishment checks. So that will be an advantage James still has over Weff when they eventually do decide to go do Maw.
So I'm not super worried about the Celestial Sash, given the possibility of still finding the mysterious warp beacon. But I also know that Weff is, just a solid runner and is able to manage with the light wall. It's just a little bit slower. If you get the right gamble, that's really what's the payoff here. So far, not hitting it.
Weff deciding that Plasma Plus does actually sound pretty good.
Plasma Plus is a good orb. It's
Plasma Plus
hungry.
is pretty good.
Hungry, but good.
Yeah, it's quite the hungry orb, but it has the damage to back it up, so I don't think many runners mind.
As it casually 2-taps the frail.
Yep, at a 154 damage, not weak to strike. Nobody's really complaining about that.
I always love watching those slimes dive bomb into your own light wall.
And James KT going into Zerion Caves will unfortunately not find anything of note in here, but
it's the friends we made along the way, right?
it's all about the friends we made along the way. Weff into the Maw area is suffocating, does not have the gas mask, so we'll be taking pretty constant damage as soon as that oxygen meter above his head drops.
So the real fun is thinking about making this climb with the light wall. I don't like that at all. But going to approach it the other way, which is I'm just going to walk it and I'm going to fall down the hole because the elevator won't be there.
Now that is smart. Also going to grab these checks along the way. We'll be finding that celestial sash.
I also appreciate how both of our runners are like, Royal Tower? Nah.
We don't need to bother with Elena for the time being.
It's fine. Crimdall coming out with the curse. Zerion with the spindle.
That's right, Weff did back out at Zerion. Likely due to damage problems, which we have since solved.
I don't think that Weff was going to actually walk towards Zerion. It was just hit the warp and hopefully never think about that place again.
Weff picking up that mysterious warp beacon.
James going to make the play, however.
Let's see.
James also going to get bodied by some unfortunate bugs.
James also not worrying about filling the health all the way up. Just gonna use the Shadow Seal strats.
Shadow Seal is very good.
I don't think anybody's arguing that, seeing those damage numbers. And what's behind Zerion? Just Max Aura. As Weff heads into the Royal Towers.
Okay, so here we see James KT heading over into Caves of Banishment, which wasn't really that inspiring in terms of items, but the density is there. Weff heading in the general direction of Twins, which was skipped before.
Yep, seeing that fire, knowing that he already has a better one. Do you think we'll see the full clear out of the Royal Towers now out of Weff? Go all the way up to Elena?
I am actually going to guess, because I am a cruel person sometimes, that we are going to see an absolute full clear of this game, Ice Rod Hunt style, for this spindle. And it's going to be in something ridiculous, like way up there.
Weff actually opting to skip defeating the twins, instead heading up here to the pink room. And is rewarded with that library card, as well as the warp beacon for the time zone we're already in. That one's significantly less useful.
Alright, here is Weff making the Gyre play into our fabulous pyramid. We'll also be disappointed, but we'll at least get the warps along the way.
Yep. That's the nice thing. You only have to clear the pyramid once. Only gotta walk through once, unless you stop in the middle.
Once and a half.
Once and a half. James KT picking up that plasma orb, knowing that it does pretty ridiculous damage. Is now probably pretty set on endgame orbs with Radiant and Plasma.
I never knew that the plasma got around the shields.
Oh yes, it's one of the reasons Plasma is such a great orb. It hits through so many things and from so far away.
Waffle Soup and that Llama Girl talking about the tendency of Weff to want the seed to prove that the lasers are required, and I've seen that in his practices.
James KT into the Maw area. Might be thinking about defeating the Maw. Nope. Not right now.
There's so little to gain from it until we actually know.
Yeah. Until you find D&B to actually get into the lab or into the military hangar.
Going for it. Okay.
Going back for it. Going back for it without any confirmation that it's required.
It's okay, we've got...
Fortunately, Zerion is there, so...
Yeah, Orb Swap Radiant. We're done.
Zerion being incredibly weak to light, where the Radiant damage falls incredibly quickly.
Not just weak to Radiant, but also, you know, in a position... Because I believe the boss scaling is on for the boss rando. So
yes, it is.
In a position where he has way less HP.
Very true. Weff is almost completely done with his trip through the pyramid. Will be disappointed that they do not find the spindle here, as James makes their way up to Ifrit, and will be pleasantly surprised with both keycard B and the tablet.
Weff headed to the Royal Tower. Ooh.
Orb switching Radiant on Ma. We'll be done with that fight very, very quickly.
This is the most annoying flooded room in the game. Like, just because it makes me jump. It makes me not, like, just walk through it. But it's okay. That's a hairpin.
Hairpin movement is far smoother now.
We got a refreshing soda. Got a refreshing soda over there as well with the Sprite. Yeah, converting this balcony into an Olympic-sized swimming pool is definitely a decision that has been made.
Yeah, it just makes that room more annoying to traverse. I like it. We've headed further into the Royal Towers, looking to clear.
Getting Sellen's Bangle out there. And choosing to equip it. It can be very nice just to get the extra levels, but, you know, it's also at a point where it's like, is this too late? You know?
Yeah, you're almost 45 minutes into the seed, and
Ice Plus, a good find. Not necessarily for Nuvius, but good find.
Ice Plus, a find.
I have grown to appreciate the Ice Orb over time.
Glass Pumpkin, do you want double time stop time?
The old Plasma 4 bag.
We love finding the quest items.
They're the best.
James KT headed into Royal Towers now. Gotta check the pink room first, though.
It's a good room to check. There's the D card. That's big availability of checks. And kind of unfortunate.
I think we'll see Weff start to think about those, or about military hangar and the laser gate.
This seed has been just such a giant bait on all of the early gears. You know, we've got, you know, enough access to things. It looked like it could have been a really nice minimum viable seed. And here we are. And Weff apparently now believes in the laser gates.
Yes, Weff believing in the laser gates, headed back to the Twins. Or, oh,
that was just a moment of I forgot. I think that was a temporary I forgot I already did this. So, Waffle Soup, I'm with you. I think that's very possible that we're going to see something like a way up there spindle. And it's just going to be sadness.
KT, having already defeated both the Maw and the Twins, will be pretty happy to see that D card, knowing that they will already have access to the lab, as Weff has to deal with both Varney here, who clearly is a massive problem, as well as Zarion at the Maw, still.
Well, it's library o'clock. We're going to check out the storage closet. Or we already did check out the storage closet. Did I miss that?
Yeah, we already saw what was in there. It was not impressive. James not skipping the dead dialogue and not taking the 1 point of damage.
It's always sad to see the tome minus, but we already knew that from the Inferno.
Weff, now, did not check the left side of the towers.
I
headed
think
directly to the right.
it's just a let's get the beacon before we go any further. Or the warp point, rather.
I suppose that C card's only required if you're going left to right. I always forget about that caveat, that that door only works in one direction. So yes, this makes more sense.
And will we hang out with Hellgazers before doing anything on the bridge crossing?
Oh yes, with that A card, we have access to our favorite enemies, the Hellgazers, who are only found in 2 locations, and they're both Hellgazer hallways, and in the Temporal Gyre. But that's because you can find everything in the Temporal Gyre.
Or, outside of the tournament flags, if you use Randomizer, they can be everywhere, along with these Roombas.
Ah yes. Randomizer is fun, and it's fun to play with both scaled enemies and unscaled enemies too. I've done both. I wouldn't say either is necessarily easier than a different one.
James opting to take the left elevator and explore from there.
Basic Ring Plus. You could combine that with our Windorp for my favorite combo in the game.
The machine gun? Heck yeah.
Machine Gun. I wonder if we'll get a high 5. Well, we won't, because James can't get through the C door. But other than that, our racers are just about synced up here. We've headed to the left, and well, James is gonna go check out the Siren Caves first, but
That's an
eventually headed
interesting
back
point
to
of
the right.
divergence. That's an interesting point of divergence because I was thinking about that as Wef ran by them. The Siren Caves, not great from a speed perspective. Oh, just picking up the warp. Okay.
Okay, that
But
makes access to it later easier.
yeah,
Wef seeing the C card item and deciding that, no, I'm good, I don't need that.
it's too far to walk for a warp shard.
James is not doing the right tower.
Interesting
right now.
choice.
Into the Temporal Gyre.
We do get a number of checks through here. It can be a little bit of a longer walk. You have a lot of enemies to kill, but with the damage we have at this point, it's no big deal.
Surprised we're not plasma orbing it up with the insane reach and piercing potential that it has. But I suppose Radiant does the job as well with its massive attack range.
Wef heads down into the Sirens section.
Chaos Trap as we encounter everyone's favorite, the Hellgazers. Warping out before doing the last 2 rooms so that they don't get stuck in the gyre and into the military hangar, skipping that right side tower, which we know doesn't have what he's looking for.
Also skipping our Sirens, so...
see if that plays out for him.
Well, so
Indeed
far
it
it's played
does.
out a
No,
blind.
no, it didn't. Weff found the spindle.
Oh, the biggest find. Now it's simply a long staircase to the double boss fight.
And down goes Weff to fight our 2 final bosses.
The seed did not prove that the lasers were required, and therefore I believe that Wef didn't kill the Maw boss. So,
Nightmare, our first of the 2 final bosses. Weak to Radiant, but we're just gonna shoot him a few times with our shotgun.
shotgun, very good in that fight.
And here
Excuse
we
me. What is this final boss swap?
They mixed him up. Thought we wouldn't notice if they changed it up on us.
That is some Umbra orb right there. 141 a shot.
Yes, Sandman weak to dark, ice, and fire. And everyone is weak to shotgun plus.
Kaboom.
That is Weff done.
And get your exclamation marks out in chat.
And James headed into the lab.
The Sad Empire orb. We are joined by our winner tonight, weffjebster. Hello, Weff.
Classic spindle hunt, right?
I've seen it many times this tournament.
Classic spindle hunt.
I said we could see the jettiest seed where the spindle is sitting right in front of the Sandman door, or, it could be like way up there.
Yeah, I was like, no gas mask, no maw, not doing it.
That is actually a perfectly sound reasoning, because what James is doing right now is out of logic. Does not have the gas mask to be here.
Yeah, no, that's any of those chests can have the spindle, but any of those chests could also have the gas mask, which would mean nothing after the lasers is in logic. So, yeah, it's there's no reason, in my opinion, to do maw until you have the gas mask, unless you're like really, really sure. Like you might know where the gas mask is. That's like the only reason I would think of having. And I mean, it's a gamble in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's just got to prove itself, right? It was not going to prove itself here, and yeah.
Yeah, the seed's got to prove to me that it wants me to beat them all. Otherwise, I'm just not going to do it. If it loses me a race, then that's whatever. But that's my philosophy this tournament.
And we have seen a forfeit from James. Weff finishing with a racetime.gg time of 54:42. That
was wild. That was like when it turned into a spindle hunt. I'm like, oh gosh, oh where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I was so afraid it was in Alana's tower because I was like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to do Alana's tower. I was so deep into the seed and I hadn't done it yet. I was like, well, I guess I'm kind of dedicated. I'm kind of dedicated to this strategy here, so I just never did it. And finally, I was like, all right, I'll do it. And then nothing was there. I guess double jump was there.
And we are joined by James KT.
Hello.
Hello, James.
Hi.
Hey, James. Good game.
Good game. What an early seed that was.
What in the world? That means just classic spindle hunt, right? I was just exactly what I said.
Kidding.
As soon as I got into this channel, I was like, classic spindle hunt.
Yep, spindle hunt. I checked the whole pyramid and it wasn't there. I thought maybe
I
it
did
was
too.
There.
I think I mean, I did Alana's tower at like 45 minutes or something.
I was just hunting for that D card because at what point, what do? You gotta go in the lab at some point.
Yeah. It was especially, I don't know if you did Ifrit spot,
did
but
do
it had the tablet, and I was like, no, that's bait.
I checked all the tablet that I could. And
Oh, okay.
Nothing.
Yeah, because
Oh, so-
Ifrit spot had the tablet, and I was like, oh, I'm in library. This feels like bait, but
So what you never found, James, is you never had the gas mask to put anything behind the lasers and logic.
Nope. I never got the gas mask.
Weff never did either.
I'm gonna actually check the spoiler log to see where the gas mask is.
That's a good point. That's a good question.
So the spindle was in the Siren Caves.
Yeah, Lily told me. That's why I hit forfeit, because at that point, where was it?
Yeah, I was like, when you said it, I was like, he's talking about the spindle. That
Yep.
D card was so late that, like,
I got my D card late too, by the way. So
oh yeah, no,
you're
like
not the only one.
I don't think there's any reason that either of us would have gotten that D card anytime early. So
With having light wall only and very few aura, no, that was not happening.
yeah, no. So it was just like, okay, we're doing anything else right now. So it was a wild seed. I'm gonna check the spoiler log to see where the gas mask was right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed
I did
like
all.
you
I
might
also
have-
did all of Zarian caves. If you didn't,
I did everything but Zarian.
I did Zarian. Elana was there. It was
Oh,
easy.
okay, yeah. I did it like very early. I even took a death there because it was so early. It was behind Ravenlord. Gas mask.
Seriously?
Yep,
How
so
are
that
we
was
supposed to get that?
You weren't.
you weren't. Nothing behind the laser gates was in the logic.
Pain.
Yep. Yeah. Also, Fire Orb and Pyro Ring were both behind lasers as well. So the Jin Inferno we got in Zarian Caves was basically our only fire, except for the Infernal Flames that was somewhere.
Yeah, I had the
Yeah.
Infernal Flames.
I don't know where that was, but when I got the Jin Inferno in Zarian Caves, that was my first fire.
Oh wow.
The Infernal Flames was, as you're headed up to Twins, the item that's just on the platform there.
Mhm.
Oh, so yeah, that's the other thing that I just didn't look at. I didn't go anywhere close to the castle tower, like, at all until very late in the seed.
Wow. I did Twins pretty much first thing.
Yeah, I just didn't feel like it. I was like, oh, not right now.
How am I gonna kill the Twins, boss? Well, I got light wall. It's plus. It'll do.
Yeah, no,
I have
Lightwall
some
Plus.
Ethers.
Lightwall Plus did some stuff for us today.
Oh yeah. And then I found Radiant Orb, and I was like, I'm sticking with this the whole game.
Yeah, Plasma Orb in Maw Caves was pretty good.
I should have went straight for Sirens while I was down there. I really should have done that.
Down where?
Yeah,
The first time I entered Siren Caves, because I grabbed the warp at bare minimum.
yeah, you guys
Oh, I
were synced up in the library. Weff, as you were clearing the right side, James had started clearing the left side.
Oh, nice.
As you were going over top,
I didn't have C card. I didn't want to go to right side.
Yeah, I didn't have C card either. I was like, all right. Well, I went right side
Weff
first.
did
and backtracked
Weff did
through
a
the
right
tower.
to left clear, as you did a left to right clear. So you guys were on like opposite sides of the towers at any given moment.
Oh, that's
It was quite entertaining to watch. And then you went into military hangars. Weff went into the Siren Caves and found that spindle.
It's just such a hard sell for me to do anything with water until I have Teleria attachment. Oh, that's another thing I should probably look at where it was.
Yeah, I was wondering where that was too. Maybe I was close
Way
to
up
it.
there. Way up there.
Oh, it was at Varney.
Was it Varney?
So where was
Where's
security
C?
key card C? Security card C was
Okay, whatever.
security key card C was Water Spike's room.
Oh,
Doing stuff underwater stinks without the Teleria attachment.
exactly.
Wow.
I didn't
that.
want to do all checks underwater, and eventually,
Yeah,
I
no.
caved in.
Doing Siren Caves already hurt a lot, but I usually route that in with my tower, so I just went ahead and did it.
Yeah, I should have just done Siren Caves while I was there. I regret
That,
that.
we would have been about tied then, probably.
Yeah.
James would
final
have been
two?
slightly ahead.
Oh yeah. I guess because I was doing left tower and he would have never done
Yeah,
right
you-
tower. Yeah.
As you were crossing over to pass through the C gate from right to left, he was going from left to right through the B gates. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
so he would have been
Mhm.
slightly ahead of you.
I had some pretty good final fights too. I was pretty proud of those because my movement
What
at the
were
earlier.
the final fights?
It was Sandman was Nightmare, and
Okay.
And Nightmare
Sorry.
was Sandman.
They
Really?
swapped
Yeah, it was-
places and
they were
pretended like
swapped,
we wouldn't
yeah.
notice.
yeah, they were swapped.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had some pretty solid fights. Remembered I had Umbra Orb Plus and put that on real quick for Sandman. Yeah,
Did I get that? Hold on a second. I'm gonna check because I don't know. I don't remember if I did or not.
well, by the time I got it, I was already loaded with like everything I could have possibly needed outside of a Sandman fight. So, yeah, Bombardment Plus and
I never got that orbs, so I
No.
probably would have just plasmid.
yeah, I had
Or
Bombardment
ice orb,
Plus.
actually.
Bombardment
Because I did
Plus
get ice
was
plus,
great. Oh yeah, ice. Was ice was plus? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
ice
ice
was
was
plus.
and I had frozen spires. I could have done exactly what I did. What would have been my last seed? Because I did
Yeah,
play
ice
that
is
whole
good.
seed out.
Ice is good against Sandman, like really, really good against Sandman. Well, until second
Especially
phase.
Frozen Spire.
Until second phase. Second phase is not so great against.
Yeah, then you just frozen spire. It's not a big deal.
I don't know. I feel like bombardment, you're probably doing more damage if you time it right.
No, you're actually doing more frozen spire. You just got to crouch cast. It puts the ice spikes closer together.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty good at getting the 7 on bombardment against Hourglass, which would be 700-ish per cast where we ended up. So that's a lot. All right. Well, that was a wild seed.
That was a very
Yeah,
wild
that-
seed.
That seed was crazy.
All right, well, I'm in losers again.
Yep, you're going up against Crazy Comics for your next match.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
Crazy Comics had a really good race against Winfei. Basically, couldn't do Ilana's Attic in his race, and Agir was there. And so Winfei got it in stride, and Crazy Comics never backtracked to get it, obviously, because why would you? So that was a really good race. So hope you have another really good race against Crazy Comics.
We'll see what happens. And I know you got a while to wait. Gotta wait for Talon, Zenner, and Planeswater. So
Yep.
Yep. Moving on to round 3.
all right. Good game.
Yeah, good games.
Good game.
Be sure to follow our runners, Weth and James, for putting on this brilliant match. Yet another spindle hunt for us, and it, with that sync up at the end, I'm not sure we could ask for much of a better match here.
Oh,
Pretty much.
yeah. It was pretty good. Pretty darn good.
Down to
I'll have
the
to watch
wire.
it back.
Where is it?
I was rooting for the 20-minute seed, and we were denied.
It
No.
started to kind of look like it at the
It
beginning. I was like,
really
oh my
did
gosh,
look
what's
like
happening
it.
here? Yeah, we do have another run in an hour,
And you'll be commentating it.
and I will be commentating on it with Llama, so that'll be fun on Speedgaming 4. So if you want some more
Yep.
Time Spinner, check that out.
And if you enjoy Timespinner, Speedgaming 4 in 1 hour.
And as I recall, that's going to be Lunar Ray Games versus Lord Fizzlebeef, right?
Correct.
Correct?
Correct?
Always nice to see the developer of the game also racing it.
Yep.
So that's super great. Lord Fizzlebeef, a good friend of mine. Definitely check that race out.
Yeah, Fizzlebeef was the one not doing glitches in the glitch race for the Final Fantasy Randomizer marathon, I think it was. So
Really?
yeah.
That's
so yeah,
hilarious.
Fizzlebeef's pretty good because I think almost won or actually won without using any glitches. So
That's really funny.
yeah, it's either came in second or he won. But yeah, shout outs to Bodhi, Lunar Ray Games. He's been super supportive of the randomizer, and you don't really get that very frequently where the developer of the game is like, yeah, no, this is great. So shout outs to Bodhi. At this point, he's probably getting ready for his race, so he might not even hear me here. But yeah, can't wait to commentate that, and can't wait for my next match.
James, you got any?
Can't wait for my next race too. Well, I'll try to schedule that as soon as possible.
Yeah. Any final shoutouts from you as well, James?
Shout out to Batty Mass Index, my fellow 100% runner.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up. Just as a reminder, there is another Timespinner Randomizer race coming at you on Speedgaming 4 in 50 minutes. I've been ACZ with my co-commentator, Saracen. Did I say that right? I'm sorry if I didn't.
Pretty close, Saracen.
Saracen.
Arizona.
And hope to see you guys in an hour.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.